The halls of Velerin Galactic Institute were alive with buzzing chatter, bioluminescent flickers, and a dozen different communication tones. Today wasn't an ordinary lecture day. A special session had been arranged, one that had been months in preparation and carried a sense of unease beneath the excitement. An elite class of interstellar biology students gathered from across the Andromeda Reach had been granted a unique opportunity. For the first time in the Institute's history, they would not just study data or simulations, they would observe a human firsthand. Humanity, known in most alien circles as Deathworlders, originated from Earth, a planet so volatile that its very classification designated it as a natural threat to organic life. Their environment was infamous. Unstable tectonics, unpredictable weather systems, carnivorous predators, microorganisms capable of liquefying foreign tissue, and a biological ecosystem that appeared to operate in open defiance of survival odds. Where other civilizations perished, humanity adapted. Where others hesitated, humans explored. Their spread across neighboring systems had shocked many and fascinated others. At the head of the lecture amphitheater stood instructor Royan Tal, a senior scholar of comparative xenopsychology. Royan was a member of the Valari species, tall, willowy figures with elongated limbs and marbled skin that shimmered in hues of violet and green. Despite his reputation for maintaining composure, his eyes, deep and multifaceted like polished obsidian, betrayed a rare flicker of nervousness. Hovering into the room, students took their places. Their physical forms varied wildly. Some were floating clusters of ionized gas, others encased in translucent exosuits filled with liquid, and a few bore wings, claws, or tendrils. Despite the differences, one sentiment echoed among them: curiosity mixed with caution. Their guest, seated comfortably on a reinforced alloy chair, was Captain Ryan Mason, a veteran officer from the Terran Reconnaissance Division. He had traveled through wormholes, commanded crews during crisis, and survived 3 planetary quarantines. To the alien scholars, he represented not just a human, but the culmination of Deathworlder evolution. Ryan sat with the kind of casual ease that many species found disarming. His uniform was worn, bearing insignia that shimmered faintly under the ambient lights. He stretched his legs, nodded to a few nearby students, and leaned back slightly as if he were waiting for a coffee and not preparing to become a biological case study. Instructor Royan activated the amphitheater's central projection panel. A 3D holographic diagram of a human body rotated slowly, displaying neural pathways, muscle distribution, and a pulsating cardiovascular system. Today we will explore one of the most confounding necessities in human biology: unconscious regeneration cycles, or what they refer to as sleep. A ripple of reaction swept through the room. Transcription pods blinked to life as dozens of alien languages translated the term into equivalent concepts, some approximate, most incomplete. "Captain Mason," Rojan said, gesturing with a spiraled limb, "would you be willing to explain the nature of this process to our class?" Ryan shrugged casually. "Sure. So sleep is something we do every night. Our bodies and minds need downtime. During sleep, everything from tissue repair to memory consolidation happens. Without it, we fall apart fast, mentally and physically." A student from the Pluvian cluster, a crystalline being shaped like a spiraling snowflake, shimmered with a pulse that translated to confusion. "You deactivate your higher functions deliberately?" "Exactly," Ryan replied. "Brain activity slows, muscles relax, sensory input drops. We're still alive, but pretty defenseless." Another being, an armadillo-like creature from the moons of Tau Ceti, narrowed its glowing eyes. "That seems tactically unsound. Wouldn't predators exploit this window?" Ryan laughed softly. "Oh yeah, they did. A lot. That's why early humans developed communal sleeping habits. One or two kept watch while the others rested. Over time, we built safe zones, caves, forts, habitats. The world didn't change. We just found ways to live with it." Instructor Rojan expanded the display to show images of early Earth shelters, stone huts with lookouts, primitive alarm traps, underground dens. "Fascinating," he said. "But to most species represented here today, The idea of prolonged unconsciousness is either unknown or biologically impossible. Many of us regenerate while remaining alert, or in divided mental states. Ryan scratched his chin. Yeah, I guess that makes us odd. But for us, it's completely normal, like eating or breathing. A luminous sphere named Vela from the atmosphere of Uranus pulsed with rising light. And if you are attacked during this state, then we hope someone wakes us up, Ryan replied with a smirk, or that we built good enough walls. Murmurs of disbelief spread around the room. Instructor Royan quieted them. To make this more instructive, Captain Mason has agreed to enter this rest state here in the observation chamber. You will have full monitoring access to biological readings. This is a rare opportunity. Please remain calm and respectful. Ryan raised an eyebrow. So, you want me to nap in front of an alien audience? Correct, Rojan answered without flinching. Well, all right. Long flight here anyway. I'll catch a few minutes. With a relaxed stretch, Ryan adjusted himself in the chair, exhaled slowly, and closed his eyes. His breathing settled into a steady rhythm. The room fell silent. Dozens of sensor arrays activated. Heart rate, brain waves, muscle tension. Every parameter appeared on floating displays. The students leaned forward, adjusting their visual and sensory lenses. For the first minute or two, it was simply interesting. His vitals slowed predictably. His muscles slackened. From their perspective, it looked peaceful, efficient even. But then, the stillness persisted. No twitching, no eye movement, no verbal output, just motionless biological suspension. A student from the Norel species, shaped like a long filament of soft coral, shuddered visibly. Is he still conscious? No, Instructor Rojan replied. He has entered the first phase of non-REM sleep. So, he is unreachable? Not quite. With sufficient stimulus, humans can wake. But under normal conditions, they remain in this state for several planetary rotations. The alien class shifted uneasily. It feels wrong, said one student softly, a feathered reptilian from Betelgeuse 4, as if he has left his body. Vela blinked rapidly. Are you sure he is not dying? Instructor Royan checked the diagnostics. All vitals are within safe parameters. Yet the discomfort only grew. By the 10th minute, the silence was oppressive. To beings who never ceased awareness, who lived with continuous sensory feedback, watching a living creature descend into unresponsiveness was alarming. A student emitted a high-pitched tone. He is entirely unguarded. What if his environment changes? What if atmospheric pressure shifts? It does not matter, Rojan said calmly. Humans have adapted to internal stabilization. His system will compensate until external threats reach lethal levels, at which point he may awaken. That assumption failed to reassure. The crystalline student flashed with agitation. We are witnessing voluntary stasis. He's not in stasis, Rojan corrected. Sleep is biologically active, not inert. But I understand your concern. A few students rose from their platforms. One creature coiled its tentacles protectively. The calm academic setting now felt like the beginning of a medical emergency. Then unexpectedly, Ryan's hand twitched, a ripple of movement along his forearm, a soft inhale through his nose. Several beings gasped. He is stirring, one whispered, a flutter of his eyelids, a shift in his posture. Ryan blinked twice, then yawned. That's the stuff, he muttered groggily, stretching his arms. He looked around at the frozen, wide-eyed students and tilted his head. Did I miss something? Captain Ryan Mason sat up slowly in his chair, still rubbing sleep from his eyes. The overhead lights of the observation chamber seemed brighter now, and dozens of alien eyes, some compound, some multi-stalked, some bioluminescent, were locked onto him with an intensity that made even the seasoned Terran feel exposed. You all look like I turned blue in my sleep, he said casually, cracking his neck as he shifted in the seat. What happened? I snore? No one answered immediately. It was Instructor Rojan who eventually stepped forward, his face unreadable, but his tone laced with subdued tension. Captain Mason, you remained in your unconscious state for precisely 54 planetary minutes. During that time, several of my students experienced significant distress. Ryan blinked. Distress? I was just catching a nap. To your physiology, yes, Rojan said slowly, but to the minds of nearly every species present, what they witnessed resembled terminal shutdown. Ryan looked around at the motionless crowd. Most students hadn't moved. A few were still huddled back from their desks. One student, an Eltari with a translucent membrane stretched inside a containment tank, was visibly rippling with nervous kinetic pulses. "You mean they thought I died?" Ryan asked, lifting a brow. "Yes," Rojan confirmed. "Even after repeated scans confirmed your life signs, the absence of movement, response, and conscious interaction triggered instinctive alarm." Ryan ran a hand through his short hair and gave a low whistle. "Guess I should have warned you all that sleep can look dramatic." The instructor deactivated the data displays with a sweep of his hand. He turned back toward the students, his voice steady. "What you've witnessed today may seem unnatural or even dangerous, but this is standard biological function for humanity. We will now process what we observed, starting with reactions. Please speak freely." A spherical student floated forward, Vela, the atmospheric entity who had pulsed brightly throughout the demonstration. Her glow dimmed as she spoke through her translator field. It was terrifying. He looked like he had vacated his body. No presence, no defense, not even a sign of alertness. Brack, the heavily plated Tau Setian, pounded a clenched fist softly on his desk. And he was still. So still. It goes against every survival instinct I possess. To allow oneself to be that helpless, even for moments, is suicide where I come from. Another student, a Thayan named Lin, added nervously. "In our culture, even during trance-like rest cycles, we maintain surface-level awareness. We can respond to stimuli in under half a second." His body didn't react at all. Rojan nodded thoughtfully. "That is the primary difference. Humans enter what they call deep sleep. It is a recurring cycle, and during the most restorative phase, their responsiveness plummets. Most predators on Earth evolved to hunt at night. Humans, in turn, evolved to sleep behind protective barriers or within social groups that rotated watch duties." "But what happens when the group fails?" Lynn asked. "Then we die," Ryan said plainly. "That happened too. A lot. But we learn from it. We evolve stress responses, fight or flight reactions, sensory alert systems that trigger even mid-sleep. You saw the quiet part, but if someone had screamed or the temperature dropped suddenly, my body would have reacted. That didn't seem to ease them." Instructor Rojan changed the display again, this time showing images from Earth. Ancient tribes huddled in caves beside flickering fires, nomadic camps surrounded by perimeter spikes and alarm stones, even modern bedrooms with closed doors, surveillance systems, and reinforced locks. This adaptation, he explained, became part of their cultural evolution. Rather than evolve away from the need for unconscious rest, humanity invested in creating safe spaces in which it could occur. They evolved socially, not biologically. Ryan nodded. "That's exactly it. We didn't lose the need for sleep. We just got better at surviving around it." Another student, a spindly insectoid from the Laris belt, rose on its back legs. "But the risk remains. Even now, in a foreign environment, you permitted yourself to enter full rest. How do you reconcile that?" Ryan shrugged. "Training. Trust. I know this place is secure. I trust the people here. Plus, I'm tired. Our sleep cycle is daily. We don't get to skip it for a few days without consequences." There was a long pause. Rojan stepped forward, his voice now softer. "Perhaps it would help if you describe what it feels like. This sleep. We understand its biological function, but what is it subjectively?" Ryan leaned back again, staring up at the ceiling as he thought. "All right, imagine your mind is running all day, processing data, scanning environments, worrying about what's next. After enough time, it gets cluttered. You can't think clearly. You get emotional, forgetful, clumsy. That's what happens when humans don't sleep. Sleep is like cleaning house. Everything resets." His eyes shifted to the students. "And while you're in it, it's like floating. Sometimes it's blackness. Sometimes it's dreams. Sometimes it's like watching your memories out of order. But always, when you wake up, you're stronger. sharper, more stable. Several students took notes, their interfaces flickering with internal processing. Instructor Rojan looked over the class. We will now split into small groups. Each cluster will compare human sleep behavior to your species' native rest cycles. We will reconvene in 1 planetary hour. The room slowly began to stir. Groups formed. Beings leaned toward one another, clicking, pulsing, speaking. Discussions erupted in subdued but intense voices. Ryan stood and stretched again, this time moving to the observation deck near the side wall. A wide window overlooked the floating structure that housed the Institute. Suspended above the surface of Caldranis IV, a habitable planet with purple vegetation and electric blue oceans. He folded his arms and stared out, giving the class space to debate and reflect. A few moments later, Royan joined him. That was more disruptive than anticipated, the instructor admitted. Even with preparation, most of them found the experience unnerving. Ryan offered a half smile. That's how most humans feel the first time they see a pluvian molt. Rojan's shoulders rippled with amusement. Touché. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the sky streak with orbital traffic. Ryan eventually spoke again. You know, it's funny. You can prep all you want, explain all the science, show the graphs, but sometimes you just have to see it to believe it. Or not believe it. Rojan nodded. Understanding biological fact is not the same as witnessing it, especially when it contradicts instinct. Ryan turned back toward the classroom. They'll get used to it. Some of them already seem more curious than scared. That's how it starts. Before the instructor could respond, a comms tone chirped across the intercom. A second-year class from the Outer Systems Behavior Wing had been observing remotely and requested a follow-up discussion. Rojan accepted the invitation. As Ryan re-entered the lecture floor, a group of students gathered near the edge of the observation deck. One, a soft-voiced avian with teal feathers, spoke up. Captain Mason, would you consider undergoing sleep again? With more sensors? We'd like to monitor your brainwave activity during dream states. Ryan smirked. You want to watch me dream? For the sake of science, the avian replied solemnly. Ryan chuckled. Sure, I've napped in worse places. Just let me grab a snack first. The lecture amphitheater was quiet again, though not from fear this time. The students of the Valoran Galactic Institute had taken their break to gather questions, review the biometric logs, and reconcile what they had seen with what they thought they knew. The initial terror had faded, replaced with a cautious fascination. Captain Ryan Mason returned to the front of the room, carrying a nutrition packet from the Institute's cross-species dietary center. It looked vaguely like a protein bar, but no one was entirely sure what was in it. He unwrapped it, took a bite, and looked around the room. South Round 2? Several students nodded. Instructor Royan stood once again beside the central display console. The room's lighting dimmed slightly as the second session began. This segment will focus on neurological analysis. We have linked our observation deck to a full-spectrum cerebral scanner. During the next sleep phase, we will observe not only biological processes, but the cognitive activity associated with what humans call dreams. Ryan gave a short nod, then reclined again into the observation chair. The students leaned in, their various visual organs trained on the human subject. The scanning fields activated with a hum, casting a soft glow over his temple. A data feed scrolled in the air above him, monitored by several assistants and automated systems. As Ryan slipped back into unconsciousness, the room once again entered a state of hushed observation. But this time, the tension was different. There was no panic, just quiet awe. Instructor Rojan turned to the class. Let us observe. Within minutes, the readings began to change. Brain activity spiked. Micro-muscle movements flickered across the human's face. The data lines danced with rhythmic patterns unlike anything most species use to track biological cycles. Vela, the atmospheric student, adjusted her lens field. His neural nodes are overactive. Is this pain? No, responded the assistant. This phase is consistent with what humans call REM, rapid eye movement. During this stage, they experience a simulated reality composed of memory fragments, instincts, and subconscious projections. You mean he is hallucinating? Essentially, yes. but their brains process it as a necessary cognitive function. They call these hallucinations dreams. Brack the Taucedian crossed his armored arms. And these dreams, they are useful. For humans, they appear to serve multiple functions: emotional processing, problem solving, memory consolidation. Though the exact mechanics are still debated, Rojan explained, the avian student who had previously requested the dream monitoring tilted his head. So at their most vulnerable, they are not only unconscious, they are mentally projecting alternative realities? Precisely. A low murmur ran through the crowd. Suddenly, Ryan twitched. His breathing shifted slightly. The scanner picked up an acceleration in heartbeat and a flurry of activity in the frontal lobe. A visual projection of the dream feed began to coalesce in the upper chamber. The humans had developed partial neural visualization technology, which when paired with alien algorithms, could approximate fragments of dream imagery. The display flickered to life. A forest, tall trees, a creature darted past, blurry and feline, a series of faces, laughter, a campfire, then a shift, an explosion, darkness, the sensation of falling. The class watched, spellbound. Rojan's voice lowered, thoughtful. This is an unfiltered emotional sequence. His subconscious is revisiting both calm and crisis. Lurie, the slender Thean student, stared in disbelief. This is beyond rest. This is an internal simulation engine. They face trauma and memory during sleep. Rojan nodded. For many humans, dreams can be euphoric or terrifying. They relive experiences, anticipate future events, or generate symbolic representations of their deepest instincts. Vela pulsed softly. What if the dream harms them? It can. Nightmares, vivid, distressing dreams, can trigger physical responses. Elevated heart rate, adrenaline release, even vocalization. A few students shivered at the idea. One small creature, a gelatinous being from the deep core colonies, piped up from the corner. So even in rest, their minds do not truly rest? That, Rojan replied, is one of the most extraordinary contradictions in human biology. Even when their bodies are shut down for recovery, their brains continue to fight, remember, adapt, and prepare. The image feed shifted again. This time it showed a peaceful beach, sunlight reflecting off water, children running along sand. Ryan stirred slightly in his chair but remained asleep. Instructor Royan continued. What you see now is likely a memory imprint. The human brain stores vivid emotional experiences with high fidelity. This memory may be years old, yet it appears fresh during the dream cycle. It is an internal archive, Vela whispered. Brack grunted. A chaotic one. I do not understand how this aids survival. Rojan turned toward him. That is because most species evolved to preserve energy through stillness or meditative awareness. But humans, Deathworlders, they process their environment differently. Their minds are never fully at peace. This dreaming is perhaps a byproduct of a brain built for chaos. There was a long pause. Then Ryan's fingers flexed. His eyes began to move beneath the lids. His breathing changed again. The class watched in complete silence as the human emerged slowly from the dream state. The data feed adjusted in real time, showing a decline in cognitive activity and a stabilization of neural rhythms. Ryan let out a breath and opened his eyes. For a moment, he simply blinked at the ceiling. Then he smiled. That was a good one. He sat up, stretched, and looked around. I'm guessing you caught all of that? Instructor Royan stepped forward. Indeed. Your cognitive responses during REM sleep have yielded more data than the past 3 decades of secondhand research. Ryan gave a low whistle. Glad to help. Several students approached hesitantly. Captain Mason, asked the avian student, do you remember what you just saw? Some of it, Ryan said. Not all. Dreams are slippery. Sometimes they fade fast. But yeah, I remember the beach in a forest. There was a weird part with a plasma bird. That wasn't real, right? The students exchanged glances. Instructor Rojan smiled faintly. That portion was vivid enough to be partially broadcast. Our processors reconstructed it for the class. Ryan laughed. So now my dreams are public record? For science, said Rojan. The students chuckled, at least those whose anatomy allowed for laughter. Others vibrated, blinked, or shimmered in shared amusement. Ryan stood and cracked his back. Well, now that you've seen what sleep looks like, and dreams, and that I didn't actually die, how's everyone feeling? There were nods, one or two hesitant, but mostly thoughtful. Vela spoke again. You are unlike any species I have encountered. Ryan smiled. I get that a lot. Brack stepped forward slowly, his heavy feet clanking on the reinforced floor. I still find it difficult to accept that a species could survive while surrendering control so often, but I no longer see it as weakness, Rojan interjected. What we witnessed was not a vulnerability, it was a form of trust. In the environment, in one another, in biology. A pattern of calculated risk-taking that shaped their evolution. He looked around at his students, and that perhaps is what makes humans so uniquely resilient. Their willingness to let go, even for a few hours, to give their minds time to unravel the day and rebuild for the next. It is not reckless. It is remarkable. Ryan raised an eyebrow. So, not a death ritual anymore? No, said Larry softly. A recovery ritual. One we had never understood. Ryan stepped back as the class began filing out. Several lingered to ask more questions. A few waved their translator tags or recorded brief exchanges with him. As the final students exited, Instructor Rojan approached. Captain Mason. Thank you. You've provided something more valuable than clinical data. Perspective. Ryan shrugged, happy to help. Just promise me one thing. What's that? Don't try to wake a sleeping human by shaking them violently. We don't always come out calm. Duly noted, said Rojan with a smile. As Ryan left the observation deck, the doors closed behind him with a soft hiss. The instructor remained for a moment, looking at the now empty chair. One being, one simple nap, and an entire classroom of interstellar scholars forever changed.